Just check the the users list, and I see you. I see you there. You are perceived. No, not Franco. Thing is not always the easy part to balance for. Like, for instance, one of my players, they have a character who's a sorcerer, which basically means to be viable, they largely should probably have Fireball, right? They're a forest fae. They're a fairy. Fireball is a little bit horrific in their view, but they're all about manipulation and illusion and stuff like that. So they asked me if we could reskin Fireball to be psychic instead. And there was, so there was the question of like, can we make it a different damage type? Because doing fire damage isn't really what my character would do. And to, I can't remember which way it went first, but basically at the end of the day, the joke was that it was a character, Mas Ombrou, very much homebrew, and our goal became trying to get them to say Ombrou on stream, and we actually managed to make them do it, which was phenomenal and hilarious because they were not a very nice person. They were a bad DM, and basically shortly after that campaign ended, they pretty much saw themselves out of every possible community, which was hilarious. So yes, Ombrou is what if that was home. Sandpaper creates a really gross paste. It's 2, 3, and 4 of the electronics. The very, very first iteration was done by somebody else, and then I basically reworked the whole thing to meet our improved requirements and adjust a bunch of stuff. But I was told, hey, when the battery dies on this thing, you've got this LED over here blinking, a current status, but it's reporting a different status than the low battery, which was true. And they identified like, hey, this is still blinking green while the battery is dead. Can you change that so that... Whoa. Songs of the Spellbound Sea. Yeah, I backed a module called Songs of the Spellbound Sea, which is super interesting and is largely, go figure, based around piracy and pirates and pirate crews and the like. What's my favorite piece of homebrew to date? Great question. Those are a little lifted. I did not push that lid down hard enough. That one's better. Favorite piece of homebrew to date? To get it okay. We will get there. More damage against the monsters guy. do all sorts of random stuff here. We do 3D printing, we do dice making, we do electronics and engineering. We're currently partway through a, that is a chonk dice. A very pretty one at that. So outside of this, the problem is they can oftentimes feel a little lackluster as a character to play, because one of my big things I always maintain is if you're running a new game, running a game for new players, you never want your players to feel like they can't be ridiculous. As a result, you want somebody who's going to be the most ridiculous person at the table, and it gives everybody else the permission to be silly. So, as a result, you had Chonk, who spoke with a really, really squeaky voice, right? Like, winning is everybody having fun. You can beat a combat, but you can also lose by beating a combat if everybody was so bored the entire time nobody cared. You know, and I know that that Theo mentioned that last night, that they'd recently done a combat and they were so bored because they spent half an hour smashing against a zombie and it was a foregone conclusion. Move on. We roll dice to figure out if something is or isn't going to happen. If there is no probability of something not happening, then just move on. You guys smash the zombie's head in. Oh, you know, it had 100 health left? Actually, it only had 1. Congratulations. How do you want to do this? How do you guys... Is that better, Carrot? I'm not surprised the music was a bit loud. I'd actually turn it up a bit so I could hear it, but... Because for some reason, OBS just really likes being the most quiet thing on my computer, which is really annoying. It basically means that if I want to be able to hear anything in OBS, I have to have my sounds turned right up, and then if anything outside of OBS plays, then I get my ears blown out, which is always fun. Oh, thanks, Nightbot. Really appreciate that. Good job. Especially in low levels. And given that this is a fairly low level campaign, we're like 2 years into it and we just hit level 7. You can't have a class that feels terrible at low levels if you're going to be spending the entire campaign at low levels. So we changed it, and it basically is like a wild magic monk that is built around the idea of protecting their friends. And it is fantastic. And it has been a lot of fun to revisit and go after. Explain Ombrou. In how much detail, Carrot? I mean, realistically, it's not like the parties involved are watching this stream, so I could probably actually be a little bit more specific. So, basically, a friend of ours was in a D&D campaign that was being streamed. 2 of our friends, actually. One of them ended up dropping out of the campaign for very good reasons. But the other hung around, and it was a painfully bad campaign. Well, I guess that means that you you FK for 5 minutes and missed a bonk. Follow the Franco! Welcome in, Franco. Good to see you. But basically, they were talking about how, you know, they homebrewed the shit out of this game, and we laughed at the fact that no, you haven't. You haven't changed anything. And it became one of those things that was a bit of a meme, right? Is, you know, you got homebrew, and then that ended up turning into thick skin. They don't really care much about psychic damage. Like, it doesn't matter. And people get really weird about some of this stuff. No, I appreciate the heads up. Always good to know. I recently backed a new 5e module, though, that I'm looking forward to. It was called... Oh, of course, that's not open. One moment. Let that load real quick. Oh, of course you're installing updates. Okay, well, I'll tell you what it was in a... Maybe I can get it on my phone. Yeah. It doesn't... Because, like, I don't want to see that green because people are going to look over and think that it's fine because it's flashing green. But you are absolutely correct. Like, that is a very, very good point. But, you know, you end up too close to a project, you put the blinders on, and they're like, I hope, you know, like, it's not the end of the world, but if it's not too big of a deal to change. And, like, 3-4 weeks ago, I had refactored my code base so that, to change everything over to proper functions and all of that. So it ultimately became a 6-minute fix that now we just have to go through and reprogram all the units that are getting ready, which is annoying, but, you know, not the end of the world. But I did laugh at something that... 4 more of that one, and that'll bring us up to 6 total for that set. I have 16 of them, but some of them have really lifted faces, and I want to actually evaluate, and I would rather get some polish so Kara could do some inking and exploring colors and the like. As you can imagine, once this is all done, we're going to be doing a dice drop online. We're just going to have to go through and do all the photography and see what's still left in the shop when we're all done. We try not to drop everything all at once, partially because a goblin paladin who wore, like, rotted out vestments over some really shiny plate armor he had stolen off a corpse. And it was a very fun... they forget that, you know, you're playing a game. Something that's supposed to be fun and enjoyable for you and everybody else. Like, we're all gathered around a table talking about make-believe characters and rolling random pieces of plastic to get numbers and figure out what we're doing, right? Like... It's not a big deal. Really isn't. And it shouldn't be. The DM was not very good. They didn't really know what they were doing. And they just had the book open and were reading from it. And you could tell that they never actually read the module ahead of time. Because they also had a reading voice when you could tell that they were very clearly reading out of the book. And we made a point of saying, like, oh, hey, you know, like, because they claimed that, you know, oh, the players do whatever they want and things go crazy and everything like that. And we're like, yeah, but dude, you've been playing this, like, by the book. It's like, oh, no. I've homebrewed the shit out of this campaign. We're like, you do realize we have the book open in front of us, right? Oh, well, and had a revolver that they weren't proficient in. That sounds super fun. We just recently fought a big boss in our Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, which was a lot of fun as well. And the party really did a fantastic job of divide and conquer, where my player spent the entire time destroying the equipment that was making them powerful. Carrot's character got in melee and just tied them up, and they kept summoning minions, and everybody else was like, no, I don't think you're allowed to have minions. And the DM after the fact is like, I want to work with my players so that they have the most fun possible. Thank you, Carrot. At a lovely... Yeah, top of the combat. It says don't line up, and then does. Like, you know, because it's not like they were worried about metagaming in that aspect of, like... But, you know, I don't think it's a terribly difficult thing to assume that a dragon's going to have some kind of line attack. I will say, Kenny told me about when he ran a Shardland Dragon for his party, and I actually thought it was really interesting, because basically, they were beating the snot out of the dragon, having a good fight, and he basically went, you guys are a little over leveled for this, so I want to see what this actually looks like. And he had the dragon take off at a little win today, which was we're getting ready to ship a new product that I did the firmware and version. The proper welcome. I'm Mothman, otherwise known as... they were like, yeah, pretty much all of their powers required minions, hirelings, whatever. All of their stuff was like stage directions, directing other people to do stuff. But none of them actually lived long enough to do anything because they had to rush up the stairs to get into the room. At which point, that was going to be the end of their turn, and then we started pulling some really crazy stuff to be like, okay, so some AoE stuff? AoE? Yeah, great, awesome, lovely. And just absolutely destroyed them, so the DM had a rough time that one, but that was fun for us. Yeah, it's a little goblin paladin that was designed for keeping the party alive for some first-time players. And Twilight Clerics are particularly good at that. They are very, very, very strong at... they have some auras that allow people to max out healing, and they've got... they have an aura that maxes healing and also gives 10 hit points every round. And that's a passive thing that doesn't need to be re-upped or anything, so it's a pretty strong piece overall. Yeah, and then Carrot kept running away, which is fine. Whatever. But, yeah, they were as it's a little overwhelming, and people don't know what to look at. Partially because it means that that our next dice drop, we're prepping the dice drop after the one we're currently working. And there's not even really tournaments in D&D. Like there's Adventurers League play, but that's not even really tournament. That's just that's just group play that's been organized by modules organized by Wizards of the Coast. And those modules suck, I would like to say. They're terrible, and I never want to run one or play in one. But like, there isn't really it is a fairly big balance change because fire is resisted by the most creatures in the game, right? As a result of that, that means that, on average, they will do more damage to any given random monster in the game, which seems like a potentially big deal. However, I don't know about your games. I'm not pulling random monsters from the from the monster manual. I'm not grabbing random monsters. I'm creating my encounters. So it doesn't matter what random monsters or any aggregation of monsters is resistant to. And also, I make the rules. Guess what? That ancient dragon, yeah, they were bullied as a kid and on generally. And partly because if we split it up into multiple dice drops, we get more attention on the page instead of one really big dice drop that people vaguely look at. So we'll be doing a dice drop. It probably won't be the full, complete totality of everything we have. So if you see something you really like, make sure you ask us. Absolutely. Head off, take a nap. No worries at all. Don't know what that noise was. Yeah, I need to, like, I think right now it's like 2 millimeters deep, and I need it to be like a 1/4 millimeter deep. Oh, I know why that's so quiet.